Hey guys, Dan here with this week's TV news and reviews. There is actually a bunch of news to talk about, so we're going to spend a decent chunk on that. And then we're going to actually play catch up with Netflix. All 6 of our shows today that I'm reviewing are going to be from Netflix. And then they actually don't have anything coming out for like the next week or two. So next week and probably the next 2 weeks we won't have any Netflix reviews. Usually there's at least one Netflix show I review, because almost every Friday they come out with something, but there seems to be a lull coming up, so I took this week to kind of catch up on all of the ones that I've missed over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we're going to go through all of those, and those are the only reviews we're going to do for the week, is those 6 shows. But first, let's get to the news portion, and we always do the renewals and cancellations first, so let's get to that. Let's see, the renewals are pretty quick. So Crank Yankers recently came back on Comedy Central. It is about to start the second half of the new season, the reboot season, and that has now been renewed for a second reboot season, 6th season overall, and that should premiere in the fall. And they ordered 20 more episodes, so I think they're going to split it up again, 10 in the fall and 10 in the spring. I have not actually been able to catch the new version of Crank Yankers, but I know a lot of the old standbys are there, you know, Jim Florentine, Tracy Morgan, Adam Carolla, so they've probably had some new names into the mix as well, but a lot of those original people I know are still part of the show, so I'm sure it's still funny. I just, you know, haven't caught up on that. And then the other one is Apple TV Plus's Truth Be Told. This is the Octavia Spencer, you know, true crime fictional show. It's not based on any real true crime, but it's in that vein. And it was supposed to be just a limited series. Like most of Apple TV Plus's shows got 2-season renewals before they even aired. You know, so they could really say, okay, hey, we're behind these shows, whatever. But for this one, they only set it for 1 season because it was supposed to be limited, but I guess the response was so good on it, and the viewership was so good on it, that they are going to have a 2nd season of Truth Be Told. So those are the 2 renewals. I have a bunch of cancellations, though, so let's get to those. Fox has relieved us all of Almost Family. Horrible show. I'm pretty sure it was in my bottom 5 of the new shows of 2019. If not, it was darn close, because I did not care for it. So good riddance to that. I know my friend Melissa loves it. She's been on this channel before. But, you know, too bad, so sad. It is gone after 13 episodes. Also, AJ and the Queen, which I recently reviewed. That's a Netflix show that I reviewed, you know, borderline favorably. I mean, I liked it enough. I just reviewed it a few weeks ago, and that joins a recent slate of many 1-season shows on Netflix. Netflix is not kidding around anymore. You know, if a show is a hit, they'll give it typically 3 to 4 seasons, and if it just doesn't catch on with audiences, it's one and done. So that is over. That was the RuPaul show. What else? The Magicians. I don't watch this show, but I've heard of it, and it's been on for a long time. It is about to wrap up season 5, but that is it now. So the April 1st season finale will now serve as a series finale. I know it had, you know, a mild cult following, as a lot of the sci-fi shows do, but that one just wasn't making the cut. I have some other sci-fi news coming up for you a little bit later with the news portion, but the 2 big surprise cancellations that have come in the last week. CBS actually is involved in both of them, but CBS main, you know, channel has canceled Hawaii Five-0. Surprising. I mean, this is one of their stalwart programs. They just recently lost Criminal Minds, which wrapped after, I believe, 15 seasons. This will be the 10th for Hawaii Five-0, and it's going to be over in just a few months. And or maybe it's already over. No, I think it's just announced that it was over. But they've decided not to go forward with any of that. I've heard conflicting things on that. I heard the Star didn't want to do it anymore, Alex O'Loughlin. My guess was it got too expensive to produce in Hawaii, because they also do Magnum PI in Hawaii, and as that is a younger show, the stars probably cost less. Makes sense. But, numbers-wise, this thing has still been working very well for CBS, so I was surprised to see that. The original actually ran 12 years, which in itself, especially for back in the day, you had Gunsmoke that ran 20 years, but most shows did not last 12 freaking years back in the day. But the original Hawaii Five-O did. So now, between the two, you've got 22 years worth of Hawaii Five-O episodes to watch. And back when the original was on is when they did more episodes a year, too. So there might be, some of those seasons might have had like 30, 32 episodes. But this, current incarnation, probably between 20 and 22 per season, I would think. But the other one is another biggie. Talk about longevity. Judge Judy, CBS owns the program. She doesn't air specifically on CBS stations. She is sold in syndicated markets. So, here in Harrisburg, I believe she's on... They've flipped her around, I feel like. I think she's on the ABC affiliate still here. And I know when I lived, back in Philly, this is how long she's been on. I left home, 23 years ago. She was on, I think, our Fox affiliate. So anyway, but CBS sells it into syndication, but they own the rights to the Judge Judy show. And even though it is by far the #1 daytime syndicated show, at least for, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, I'm not sure if they count in that because they air almost exclusively in the 7 to 8 p.m. slot, which isn't really daytime per se. But even the last couple of years of Oprah, Judge Judy was beating Oprah. So this thing goes out to 9 or 10 million homes per day, which in this day and age of television is completely bonkers. So she announced on Ellen a few days ago that she will be moving on, not by her choice. She made that clear. But next year, the 2021 season, will be the Judge Judy show's 25th season and its final season. And basically what she said on Ellen was, look, they bought out the rights to all of her shows, which that was maybe 2 years ago. And that was a huge contract. It was like somewhere in the $70 to $100 million range to buy out her whole library. And she already gets paid millions and millions a year or so to do the show. So, but the thing I think CBS realized once they bought out her show packages is these episodes are not time sensitive. You could put on a Judge Judy episode from 2001 or 2005 or 1997 that still probably is exactly as relevant now as it was then. Unless maybe they're talking about cell phones or Facebook or something. They're not really very dated. Now she did cut her hair, so the last year or so she has this different hairstyle than she's had for the previous 20-some years. But other than that, I don't think you'd be able to tell a difference. So she said what CBS is going to do, and this makes a lot of sense to me, is basically just sell the reruns of Judge Judy in syndication then for the next couple of years after the last new season, which will be next year. But at the same time, Judy is also working on her own show now that this news has come down, called Judy Justice, and she's going to sell that, I guess, in syndication as well. So basically, probably it'll be in the contracts that they can't air on the same channels. If you're in the ABC market in Harrisburg, then you got to be on, a different network or different channel for Judy Justice. That's usually how those kind of things work. But that was shocking. That seemed like the kind of thing that would go on as long as Judy wanted it to, because it makes so much money for CBS. But at the same time, if they can avoid paying her $20 million a year or whatever, $40 million. Her payday is ridiculous. She is the highest paid, at least woman on television, but she may be the highest paid person on television, to be completely honest. She gets a lot of money. So it makes sense, I guess, to sort of, just sell the reruns. You can still get the advertising money, but since they're not new episodes, you don't have to pay Judy anymore. So it does make sense, and it goes out, it goes out on top this way, and whatever. But it's kind of a bummer that it's not her choice, to end the show. So up next, I want to talk about Quibi. We have been back and forth on this Quibi thing for months, learning about what it is. It's these 8 to 10 minute sort of bites of shows, and we've talked about a lot of the shows they're going to be rebooting, like Singled Out and Punked, for example, and some of the big names involved in Quibi shows. But I have now the information about their original launch slate, which is coming out very soon. It's April 6th, so we're less than a month away from that. So I'll probably have to do a whole Quibi show. I don't know if this is something I'm going to review as I do with normal shows or not, because here's the deal with Quibi. So they're going to have 50 shows out of the gate, but they're all in these, like I said, 8 to 10 minute chunks of episodes. So their original scripted shows are going to, in their words, play like movies, but just in bites. So, they're going to be, let's say, who knows, maybe 10 episodes or 12 episodes, but they're all 10 minutes each. And so if you put them together, it would make up a movie. So with that in mind, I don't know if that means they're going to release episodes weekly or daily, or release them all at once, or what. A lot of their shows are going to be daily because they have a bunch of different news shows and sports shows and that kind of thing. In fact, of the 50 shows at the Quibi launch, only 4 of them are scripted shows. Everything else is unscripted, whether it's a game show, a talk show, a news program, a documentary, whatever. So the 4, they're calling the episodes chapters even. They're not really calling them episodes. So here's the information about the 4 scripted shows that are going to be at Quibi's launch on April 6th. You've got Survive, starring Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones, her and Corey Hawkins, who I recognize the name. I feel like maybe he was in Straight Outta Compton. But anyway, they play the only 2 survivors of a plane crash who must make their way out of a remote wilderness. It's called Survive. I already saw that movie. It was with Kate Winslet and Idris Elba. It was called something about the mountains, Lost in the Mountains or something. But okay, whatever. Not very original so far. Next is something called Most Dangerous Game. This is Liam Hemsworth, so okay, a big name. He's going to be a terminally ill man. In order to provide for his pregnant wife after he dies, he enters this deadly game where he is not the hunter but the prey, and it features Christoph Waltz as well. Love him. So a couple of big names in that one. That one is called, again, Most Dangerous Game. You've got Flipped, which is Will Forte and Caitlin Olsen. Oh my gosh, 2 of my favorite people. Caitlin Olsen, I loved from The Mick. I love her in Always Sunny. Will Forte, I thought was okay on Saturday Night Live. Amazing in Last Man on Earth. That made my top 10 TV shows of the decade. So this will be interesting. They star as would-be TV house flippers who inadvertently come across a stash of drug cartel money, and they've got to renovate the cartel boss's mansion, and the boss is played by Andy Garcia. So, Quibi's getting a lot of these big names. It's interesting. And then the final scripted show is going to be called When the Streetlights Go On, and I don't have any actors or actresses in this, so this might not be as high-profile a project as some of these others. The sister and friends of a teenage murder victim try to find a sense of normalcy while coming of age among the violence and homicide investigation. All right, so, I mean, none of these, except maybe the Caitlin Olsen show, sound particularly original, but, I mean, a lot of movies these days aren't original, so we'll see. And then unscripted shows, I'm not going to go over all of that, but some of the higher profile ones that I've already talked about, Singled Out and Punked, are doing the revival. Chrissy Teigen is going to have, some courtroom show called Chrissy's Court. Nicole Richie is going to star in some sort of reality show called Nikki Fresh. Idris Elba, speaking of him, he's going to be talking about stunts on some kind of stunt show. What else? Reese Witherspoon has a nature series that they're going to be doing called Fierce Queens. There's a cooking show, and then there's a handful of daily shows too. So here's the slate of shows that are going to be on in episodes every single day, or at least maybe Monday through Friday. I don't know. So last night's late night, that is from Entertainment Weekly, and it's like a recap of the talk shows from the night before. Maybe sort of like a talk soup. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be poking fun at it, but it might be something like that. The Daily Chill, a show that aims to take viewers on a pathway to calmness. So that's some sort of meditation show. Brittany and Eric, The Nod. Don't really know what that is, but it's based on a black culture podcast. Rachel Hollis show, that is motivation tips. Sexology, that's an intimacy show about, I guess, people call in or something and you talk about sex. A fashion show called Fashion's a Drag. It's some sort of one of the drag race winners, I guess, is hosting that. 60 in 6, which is a short version of CBS's 60 Minutes. Around the World by BBC News. And then Morning Report, Evening Report, Saturday Report, Sunday Report. That's by NBC News. It's interesting that they're getting all of these different networks on board. I mean, Jeffrey Katzenberger has a lot of pull, obviously, but like a CBS News show and an NBC News show and a BBC News show. That's very interesting. And then they've got a couple of Spanish shows as well from Telemundo, a couple of weather shows from the Weather Channel. There's a bunch of different sports things. ESPN has one. Canada has one. Fresh Daily by Rotten Tomatoes. That could be interesting recommendations for TV and movies. No Filter by TMZ. Well, I hate them. Hot Off the Mic. That's comedians offer their takes on news of the day. So, these are all sort of basic ideas of shows, and there's more than that on the daily front that I'm not even going over. But so there's 50 shows at the start. Some of them certainly sound interesting. I don't think any of these sound particularly groundbreaking, but all right. But then here is the deal with it. So they're going to launch 175 shows total within the first year, featuring 8,500 separate pieces of content, which works out to, from what this article says, just 3 hours a day. So they're unlike Netflix, which I mean is virtually endless, especially because they keep producing new content. I don't think you would ever run out of things to watch on Netflix. But here, it amounts to about 3 hours of content a day. So you can get $5 for the ad-supported version or $8 for the ad-free version a month. And there's also, this is interesting, a 90-day free trial to users who sign up before it launches. That is very interesting because most places will give you like a 14-day free trial, maybe a 30-day free trial. 3 months free, that is pretty solid. So I will definitely, if nothing else, partake in the free 90 days. Knowing me, I'll probably do the ad version for $5 a month after that. I never mind seeing ads in my content. I've been watching ads on shows for, my whole life. So that's the latest on Quibi. A lot of stuff, with that. I can't imagine I'm going to watch 50 shows and review them all for you, but maybe just review Quibi, overall. All right, so let's move on to some other things. A few quick things. Some things being canceled and postponed because of the coronavirus. So South by Southwest, which is mostly for movies and music, but there's always some TV stuff there too, has been canceled for the year. It's an annual event. Obviously a lot of people go to it. It's, it attracts major stars, major studios, major record labels. Done. Not happening for the year. So I thought that was interesting and sort of startling. And then also The Amazing Race has been sort of postponed. They stopped the season in the middle of it to send the people home and the producers home and everything, because that's obviously a race around the world. So they're sort of, going to all different countries and continents. So it makes sense. But yeah, kind of some scary stuff out there. They've already postponed a couple of movies. The new James Bond, No Time to Die, will now go to November instead of supposed to premiere in just a few weeks here. And then the new Fast and Furious will be doing the same. And I think there was one other one that I heard a rumor of. I haven't read it specifically myself, but is it one of the big Disney ones? Yeah, it's a Marvel, Black Widow. So, that may be moving as well. So, interesting stuff with the coronavirus. So, obviously not too much probably on the TV front, just because People don't go out of their house to watch TV, so maybe it won't matter. But I wanted to pass that along anyway. So other than that, we have the Celebrity Red Nose Day is coming up in a few weeks, and that's when they do the telethon with all the huge stars to, get money for cancer and everything. And this year they're doing a celebrity escape room program. And I don't know if it's being hosted by or produced by or whatever, but Jack Black is heavily involved. And the people he has doing the escape room are Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, and two of the friends, Lisa Kudrow and Courtney Cox. And I don't know if Jack Black himself will be participating in the room as well, but that sounds interesting as hell to me. I'm a big escape room guy. I just did one 2 days ago. I'm going to be doing one this coming weekend. I get out to many escape rooms. I think they're a lot of fun, and it can be interesting to watch escape rooms, but it can also be not interesting. Like the movie Escape Room was not that good. But then that new game show I reviewed a few weeks ago on Nickelodeon, where there's some sort of escape room-esque things going on, like in the challenges, that I thought was very interesting. So, I don't know, I think they should be a lot of fun. I love all of those celebrities, they're all really cool. And it's interesting to see the connections, because of course Jack Black and Ben Stiller were in Tropic Thunder. Ben Stiller and Adam Scott were in Walter Mitty. I don't know exactly what the Lisa Kudrow and Courtney Cox connection is to those people, except for like Ben Stiller was on one of the Friends episodes, a long time ago. But either way, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that's a fun group. I think they've picked good people if they want, to pick up the numbers for the telethon, because I guess that's going to air at 8, and then the telethon is airing right after for 2 hours. So I don't know what day that is yet, but usually it's in April every year, so that should be coming up soon. What else? Okay, so America Ferrera is leaving Superstore at the end of the year. This is shocking because she is an executive producer on the show, and for all intents and purposes, she is the star of the show. I mean, she was certainly the big name when the show premiered, coming off of things like Ugly Betty, but she has decided to focus on some other projects, some producing things, so I think this is interesting. I mean, this is, at this point, a very ensemble show. I think everybody gets their due. Now, I'm several seasons behind on Superstore, but, from when I see promos and stuff, they focus on everybody. They focus on, I don't know all the character names, but like Mateo or, the gal that's always in charge of things, or Mark McKinney, the boss character. So it seems to me like at this point a good ensemble, so maybe missing one person won't be the end of the world, but I certainly think of her as certainly one of the leads of the show, if not the lead. So I thought this was an interesting announcement. There didn't seem to be any animosity. My guess is they're not going to kill off her character, so if she wants to come back, she can, but it's going to be weird. I can't think of too many shows that have lost their star and moved on. I guess it's easier if you're an ensemble. Like 2.5 Men did it, obviously, with Charlie Sheen and Ashton Kutcher. But that was already kind of long in the tooth. Like, I feel like Shelley Long leaving Cheers is like the biggest example of that. And then, Kirstie Alley picked up the torch, and it did even better in the ratings. It was probably a lesser quality show, although I liked it more because I was like 12. And so, the Kirstie Alley years are a little more sophomoric. But, it'll be interesting. Probably they're not going to replace her, or maybe they will. I don't know. But they have a strong cast now, so maybe they don't need to. But I don't know. I thought that was an interesting announcement. Alright, I have something else, but we'll save that for next week because we're running short on time already here. So let's go to This Week in Reboots. The Sci-Fi News I was alluding to earlier. They are doing a Day of the Dead show based on the movie. There's going to be 10 episodes of that. And this is interesting because most basic cable stations are moving away from scripted content at this point. USA among them. But Sci-Fi, okay, they canceled The Magicians, but they have 2 brand new shows coming. Day of the Dead is one of them, and there's another one as well that will be premiering in the fall. So, a couple of things there to look forward to if you're into the sci-fi shows. I don't think I've ever seen any sci-fi original shows. I'm not even sure if I've seen any of their movies. I've seen clips of Sharknado, but I decided not to waste my time with it, so I never watched an episode of it. But I feel like the people that like sci-fi shows really like it, really like them, I should say. And if you don't, then you don't. I might check. I mean, I guess I'll check out Day of the Dead when it premieres, for this show. But it's probably not something I'll watch. But they're from a low-budget indie studio, so it's not costing Sci-Fi a lot to purchase them. I don't know what that means for the quality of the shows, but we'll see. But anyway, the big reboot news for the week is The Kids in the Hall. I mentioned Martin McKinney earlier from Superstore. He is a part of The Kids in the Hall, and all 5 members are returning for a reboot on Amazon Prime. It's going to just be 8 episodes, like they do these days, but Lorne Michaels is still on board to produce. He's the one who brought Kids in the Hall to America, and I guess he probably had a hand in forming the troupe. Or maybe they were already a comedy troupe and he just kind of picked up on it and put them on TV. I don't know. But anyway, it aired originally from 88 to 95. I got onto it pretty late in the game because we didn't have cable growing up, and it was only on, I don't know what it was on. Was it on Comedy Central maybe? I don't know. I mean, I know they aired a lot of reruns back in the day, but I don't know what the original network or whatever of Kids in the Hall was, or maybe it wasn't on in the U.S. till later. Maybe it started in Canada and then migrated here. But anyway, all 5 members are on board. They're all very excited about it. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, Kids in the Hall was definitely like for a time. Like, I think if you showed Kids in the Hall now to kids, that were my age when the show was originally out, I don't know if they would get the humor, like the oh, I'm crushing your head kind of thing, or the different like songs they did. And it wasn't necessarily like a parody show like Saturday Night Live or In Living Color. It was sort of just different ideas and odd sketches, and they loved dressing up as women, and they just were very off the beaten path, whereas Saturday Night Live or In Living Color is more pop culture savvy. And I don't know. I would be curious to see if the Kids in the Hall original episodes would sort of translate as well as it did, for my generation. But I saw it posted several times on Facebook from people of my age group. So, there's a lot of excitement out there. I never was like a huge Kids in the Hall fan, but they definitely have some sketches I like, and I like a lot of the people in it. Like, I love Dave Foley, mainly I guess because of his news radio stuff, but I've always liked him, and Scott Thompson, and the whole collective is very talented. So I'm excited to see what they do with it when they bring it to Amazon Prime. And then the last one is the Beauty and the Beast prequel that is coming to Disney Plus. It's going to be a limited series, which typically means like 8 to 10 episodes, and that's going to be with Josh Gad and Luke Evans reprising their roles from the 2017 hit live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, which I loved the remake. I'm not sure about this prequel series because I'm hit or miss on Josh Gad. I did like him in Beauty and the Beast, though, so that bodes well. But, Gaston is such a jerk. I don't know if I want to see a whole series based around his character. But at the same time, it's from some of the people that brought us Once Upon a Time, which I never really got into, but I did watch like maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes when it first aired. And it was intriguing, and I over the years have read like the different storylines, and they did have a small Beauty and the Beast arc for a couple episodes way back when. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think you should leave well enough alone. Like, I really love the live action remake of Beauty and the Beast, and I love the animated one still as well. So prequel series, I don't know, but but I'm sure when the time comes, I will bring it to you with a review. So with that in mind, let's move into the reviews. That is by far the longest news segment we've ever done, so let's try to bang these out. I have 6 shows to go over from Netflix. If I can get them in about 5 minutes each, then we will be under an hour for the show, which I always like. I do want to say, so there is a correction, I guess I should say. So, for those of you that don't know, for me to watch all of these shows and make all these videos for you, I do work from home, so sometimes I watch some of the shows while I'm at work. Not all the time, but, if I'm in a time crunch, sometimes I do. And that allows me to miss certain things every now and then. So on last week's show, I was talking about the show For Life, and I sort of mistakenly thought that the lead actor, or the lead character, I should say, was in a relationship with the gal that works at the jail, and that was way off. She's a lesbian. She's in a relationship with this woman who is running for the Senate or court judge or whatever. I mean, I watched the show 2 weeks ago, so I don't really remember that now, but I sort of got that twisted, so I do want to say, if please comment. I'm certainly fallible. I'm human, and I do watch a lot of things, and a lot of times I'm doing these review shows days after I've watched the episode, so sometimes I don't remember everything. So I did want to point that out. Please comment, always, if I mess up on something. I do not mind, retracting something. But one other thing I wanted to mention that I realized a couple days after the last episode, I reviewed the show High Fidelity, which stars Zoe Kravitz, and I gave it a very glowing review. Good show on Hulu. And I talked about, how she looks exactly like a perfect amalgamation of her parents, Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz. I had forgotten Lisa Bonet was actually in the movie High Fidelity. So I don't know if that had anything to do at all with, Zoe Kravitz getting the nod from Nick Hornby, the author of the book, or whatever. But I just thought that was sort of an interesting little kismet kind of thing that I realized a couple days after I recorded the show, and just kind of wanted to throw that out there. I thought it was interesting. So, all right. So anyway, we have 6 shows that are all on Netflix, like I said, and they're from all different genres, as you would imagine. So a little bit of everything. So let's start with Queen Sono. This is Netflix's first African series, specifically from South Africa, and they're sort of they have a lot of international stuff on the I almost said the channel, on the service, on the streaming service, but not a lot of it is necessarily geared towards the United States. I mean, we can watch it, and if we want to watch it with subtitles, cool. Apparently they've seen an uptick since Parasite won the Academy Award for Best Picture of people seeking out foreign language stuff. So this is mainly in English, I would say, but it actually has about 6 to 8 different languages in each episode, which is freaking awesome. It's a cast of unknowns. I mean, unknown to us anyway in the U.S. Maybe these people are famous, on South African television or in movies or something. But Pearl Thusi is the star of this show. She plays Queen Sono, who is a field operative for the SOG, which is called the Special Operations Group. That's what that stands for. And she's the daughter of a deceased revolutionary in anti-apartheid and a freedom fighter. So part of the story revolves around her trying to figure out, her mom's death and what was surrounding that. And then the other part of it is basically, following her as an agent who's, dealing with criminals and stuff like that. So, again, I don't know anybody else in the cast, but there's, some different people she deals with both at work and in her family life. And like all of these, reviews I usually do, I've only watched one episode of all of these shows, so I'm sure this delves more into her personal stuff as the episodes go on. But one thing I really like, before I even talk about the show itself or the episodes themselves, this is only a 6-episode season. It's not being called a limited series, so it will be maybe coming back. I think there's a good buzz on it, so I would say it probably will be coming back. But there's only 6 episodes, and it's also they're shorter episodes. They are like TV length episodes. So, for example, an hour of TV minus commercials is about 40. Well, these days about 42 minutes. But these episodes are all in that sort of mid-40s range. 43, 45, 47 minutes, which is different from a lot of American Netflix shows who I think overstay their welcome sometimes at 60 minutes. Especially with like a 10-episode season, because a lot of it ends up becoming filler. And boy, do you not get that with this show. This show comes in, hitting, and it does not let go for that time. It's not all action scenes. I don't mean it like that, but plot points and, the stuff surrounding Queen Sono's family is very interesting. So I do have some things that are wrong with it. I think she is great as the lead. She plays Queen Sono with all this attitude and sass, but also we see at times, especially when dealing with what's been going on with her family issues, we see sort of, like a more reserved side. I don't want to say a softer side, but more contemplative maybe, but she's also, kicking major ass, or at least her stunt double is, or whatever. So I think she is great. I feel like a lot of the people surrounding her aren't quite as good acting-wise as she is, and I'm not saying she's Meryl Streep here, but she definitely fits the bill. It reminded me a lot of Colombiana with, what's her name? She plays Gamora. Oh, man, I forget. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. She's in all the Avatar movies. Zoe Saldana. It reminds me a lot of that, where it's a revenge story, but it's also, I don't know. She wasn't specifically a government agent. I don't think. It's been about 8 years since I've seen Colombiana, but anyway, the action sequences in this remind me a lot of that. Also, because it's shot in South Africa, there's a lot of like really lush locations and just gorgeous scenery amidst all this sort of crime and bad stuff going on in the plot. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition, and I love that the episodes are a good length. There is no filler here. I imagine each of these 6 episodes probably gets that same type of treatment, because they are also all that like mid-40s type of length. I think the longest episode is 47 minutes, so not bad. The other thing I want to mention about this is, and this is a major rave, so I just got finished reading Trevor Noah's book, which actually I have right over here somewhere. Since I'm in my bedroom, I can show you. Born a Crime, the Trevor Noah book. He's, of course, the host of The Daily Show right now. I just finished reading it like last week, but he grew up in South Africa. He grew up with under apartheid. So because of his life story, I actually knew a lot of what they were sort of talking about in this show, Queen Sono, which is so cool. But not only that, they have the actual African dialects. Like, I never realized until I read his book how many different African dialects there are. There's Xhosa and Zulu and Swahili and Afrikaans and all of these, and all 4 of those and more are present in this show. So other than, or instead of just having people speak English and one other language or whatever, it seems super authentic. Like, not to go back to movies, but that was one of my problems with the movie The 33. I mean, it was a good movie where they were all trapped in the cave and stuff, or in the mine, but nobody was speaking Spanish, and they were all Spanish people. Like, it just made no sense. Like, it made me actually angry at the movie, because I'm like, I get it, you wanted to appeal to an American audience, but we can all read, So anyway, I think the show is very good. I wish the supporting cast was better. But everything about this tends to work for me, and for their first South African show, for the first African show at all, out of the gate, I think Netflix really hit on a good one here. Queen Sono gets an A- from me. So moving on, we have I Am Not Okay With This. This is our or comedy, which is sort of, I didn't watch this show, but it's in the same universe as the, what was the name of the show? Like, how was it called? Something about end of the effing world or something like that. So this is in the same universe, and I guess the events are supposed to take place at the same time as the events of that. So this one I did actually watch 2 episodes of, because these are also the same length as a network show. They're like 20-minute episodes, which you never get on Netflix. Either they're just shorts, they're like 9-minute episodes, or they're 32-minute episodes instead of like a half hour. So so I did actually watch 2 of these. And Sophia Lillis is the star who, if you saw It Chapter, or either of the It's, I should say, not just Chapter 2, but she is in the It movies. She also played Nancy Drew in a Nancy Drew movie last year, not the CW show, but so you may have seen her in something. But basically, she's the 17-year-old girl who is very angsty and hates her family and blah blah blah, outcast at school. And she realizes she has some telekinetic powers when she gets angry, and she's just sort of learning in these first couple episodes how to use them. Like, she just finds out she has them at the very end of the first episode, so that's why I watched episode 2 as well, to get sort of a slightly bigger picture. But she befriends a similar outcast in school that doesn't do so well with the ladies, but turns out, they sort of maybe have a thing going because they're both outcasts, and she sort of reveals her power to him. I thought the show was funny. I did not see the end of the effing world or whatever that show was, so I can't compare it to that specifically, but I thought, for your classic end of the world type show, that I imagine, because it's the simultaneous thing with that show, I assume at some point we're going to get to the more apocalyptic stuff, which I haven't seen any of yet. So I sort of am hit or miss on that type of thing. Sometimes I think it's really well done, other times I think it's not, and sort of hacky, and I don't know, but I definitely laughed a few times at this. I think she's a good actress. I think this has a pretty good cast overall. It's mostly, again, people I am not real familiar with. None of the people, other than her, I recognized. Oh yeah, so End of the Effing World is over. It aired from 2017 to 2019, also on Netflix, and this is from the same group of people. So, and this is based on a comic book as well. I don't know if that was or not, but this is, and it's same name as the show. I am not okay with this. So, in the interest of time, because I do like to keep these shows under an hour, we're gonna move on. But I like this show a lot. I like the 21 minutes. I mean, that's, listen, an episode of Young Sheldon's 21 minutes. So, why does Netflix have to pad out their shows? That's kind of the problem I have with them. It's like, Grace and Frankie's 32 minutes or whatever, which is okay, but it's like a 13-episode season. We'll just make it a 16-episode season and make them all 25 minutes like a normal show. I don't know. But anyway, so let's move on. I will leave I am not okay with this with a B+. Thought it was pretty good. Up next is The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez. This is a mini-series. It's 6 episodes total, and they are all hour long. I don't do a lot of the true crime stuff on this show. I don't do a lot of the docudrama type things, and it's a documentary miniseries. It's not scripted or anything, but it's getting a lot of buzz. I talked last week how Netflix is putting their top 10 up daily. This was #1 on the day I watched it, so it's getting a lot of buzz here, and it's Netflix, so all 6 episodes are up now if you want to binge it. All episodes for every show I'm mentioning are up right now, but this is documentary filmmaker Brian Kappenberger, and he is taking a look basically at this 2013 murder case of an 8-year-old boy from California who was sort of shuttled from parent to parent and, family member to family member. He was living with his uncle for 6 months. He was living with his dad for 3 years, whatever. And then he ended up with his mom and the mom's boyfriend, who ended up allegedly, I guess I should say, because I haven't seen the rest of the show, but allegedly murdered him. They called 911 saying he fell in the bathtub, and then they bring him in, and, just all of, brain injuries and all these contusions and, rope marks on his legs like he was tied up. So this is a hard watch. This is one where I don't think I could have watched all 6 in a row, even if I wanted to. This is a hard watch, but it is, I don't know. It's intense. It's very dramatic. Before the title even showed in that first episode, I was already crying for this kid, because they interviewed one of the first people they show is the head nurse that took care of him at the hospital, and she was just describing everything, and then she said about how her and her family now celebrate this kid's birthday every year because he never had a family that cared about, and it's oh my God, it tugs at the heartstrings. Sort of towards the end of the first episode is when we get into the trial stuff, and how they have to try the mom separately from the stepdad, and it all seems very interesting. I'm not sure what puts this ahead of other true crime shows. It is well done. It's very, very engaging, but it's also enraging, which I think is, a documentary should make you feel something. And this certainly did. So I have to give it credit for that. For me, it's hard to grade something like this because I don't watch a lot of true crime stuff. But what I've seen so far is pretty damn impressive, and yeah, it's good. I'm gonna leave it with an A- for now. Once I watch all 6 episodes, I may have a higher grade for it. I'm not sure, but yeah, really, really good. All right, so let's keep it moving here. Gentefied, which I thought was Gentrified when I searched for it, but it's called Gentefied. And this is another comedy show Netflix has going on. This is, again, delving into the Latino well here on Netflix. In fact, 3 of our 6 shows have to do with Latino families. We just heard the last one, Gabriel Fernandez. But this one is a sitcom. It's not no laugh track or anything. It's a one camera sitcom, they say. But yeah, Gentefied is about this Mexican family in America. It's 3 cousins, and they're basically struggling to make ends meet with their taco stand, and they have an immigrant grandfather that's giving them sort of trouble, and with his documentation and etc. It's definitely a comedy drama, though. It's not a barrel of laughs. I would say there's a lot of real stuff here, but it's definitely funnier than, say, Party of Five, to go to another Latino reference here. And again, I don't know any of these actors, but for the most part, they did a good job. Obviously immigration is such a hot topic right now, but I gotta be honest, I'm getting a little bit sick of it. I'm currently on the final season of The Fosters from 2 years ago, and it was already a big storyline then. And then, of course, One Day at a Time has done it, and the new Party of Five does it. So I'm more interested in the other portions of this show, how they're doing, dealing with the taco stand and all these other things. Their sort of interplay with each other. So I definitely laughed a couple of times, but I would classify this more as a drama than a comedy. The Wikipedia page says it is an American comedy drama web series. So to me, I think it's more of a drama. If I was supposed to get rich belly laughs from this, I did not. But I think the characters are interesting. I would like to see a show capture Mexican Americans without having to bring up the immigration thing, just because I think it's been done a lot, and I know it's something that is really present right now. I know it's something that's really going on right now, but you know, I'm also the same kind of person that as a gay man, sometimes I'm like, okay, every show doesn't have to have a gay character. Like, you know, I'm that person. So, you know, it's not being you know, xenophobic or whatever. It's not being like, oh, you know, immigration is not an important issue. It certainly is, but it doesn't have to be in every single show about Mexican Americans out there, especially when it's just been done. So I like the other aspects of the show, not that so much. But the acting is good, you know, from these people. I think, you know, a lot of no names on these Netflix shows this week. Sometimes you get a big name, like, you know, RuPaul headed up AJ and the Queen that I reviewed a couple weeks ago. But a lot of these shows are just, they're, you know, new. Which is fine. You know, I always like, you know, being introduced to new talent. So let me get some of the names here for you. Joaquin Costillo, JJ Soria, Carrie Martin, and Carlos Santos. So give them their due. Yeah, I think it's a good show, but I think it is missing more humor if it wants to be marked as a comedy first in that bio line on Wiki, and probably IMDb says the same thing too. Although I don't know, the genre markings on IMDb leave a little bit to be desired. But I'm gonna leave Gentefied with a B for now. Up next is Glitch Tex. This is Tex, Techs, not like Tex, the, you know, Texas. Glitch Tex. This is an animated series, and it was for Nickelodeon. And I don't know if Nickelodeon ended up passing on it, but it's with Nickelodeon Studios, which usually Netflix does not do that much of. I mean, they did One Day at a Time with Sony, but that's because they owned the rights. Sony did to the One Day at a Time show. So, you know, it's rare that they do something this high profile. I'm not sure why Nickelodeon decided not to air it themselves, but 9 episodes of this are up. This, technically, I guess I watched 2 episodes of as well, because the first episode is a double episode. So really there's like 10 episodes, but the first one is combined into 2 episodes, so it's like 45 minutes. And the basic premise is these gamer kids who go by High Five and Miko, who work, you know, just normal. They're just normal kids. Like, the one kid works for his parents', ironically, taco stand, and then, you know, the girl just is with her family, and her family is very big, and they don't have time for her, and you know, this and that. And so the people come out, like the monsters come out of the video games. There's sort of glitches in the system, and as a result, these people known as glitch techs go in and basically solve the problem, and then they sort of Men in Black you, so you don't know what happened. So basically these kids enter a contest where stuff goes wrong, the tech goes wrong, so everyone in the contest ends up getting flashy thinged, and except for the girl, Miko. So she goes out to find High Five, and she's like, dude, you were flashy thinged, you actually won this competition, let's see what's going on. So they discover this whole world. I understand why the first episode is a 2-parter, because it does take about 45 minutes to really tell the full premise of this show, you know, in script form. So I get why it was 2 episodes. I'm glad that I watched 2 episodes, because otherwise I would be very confused. The voice acting's okay here. Again, you know, not anybody that I really know. You know, Luke Youngblood, Ricardo Hurtado, Monica Ray, Josh Sussman. These are not everyday names. But they did, you know, a good enough job. I think the concept is interesting, but it's been done before. Everything about this show basically has been done before. Obviously, you know, the flashy things, I already referenced Men in Black from that. Hard not to think of that as a template for this. And then, you know, the things coming to life and coming out of your screen. I mean, you know, The Simpsons did that on Treehouse of Horror, and it goes back way before that, I'm sure. But, so, nothing about this is real original. Now, kids won't necessarily know that, I suppose. This is a show primarily for kids. It was supposed to be on Nickelodeon. So, maybe you can give it a small pass for that. But I still think, even if you're just a kid show, I think you need to have some sort of originality here. And I'm not sure this show does. But that being said, it's in that sort of anime-esque animation style. Like, it's not anime, clearly, but it's got some of the hallmarks of anime, including, the way that the characters react to things, and a little bit of, how the characters are drawn and how the set pieces are drawn and stuff. Which, look, anime is not my favorite kind of animation. I will just flat out say that. So maybe I'm a little biased by that, but if nothing else, it's also not original. But that being said, the characters are good. I think the characters are interesting, especially, the two main ones, High Five and Miko, and I think it will be interesting to see how their friendship and relationship progresses from that first episode. But yeah, it is not too original, so I can't give it too high a grade, but I did find it enjoyable, and I think kids will certainly find it enjoyable as well. In terms of the video game stuff, I mean, that doesn't interest me much. That as a plot point doesn't interest me much. I'm more concerned about, their friendship and sort of the background of the corporation of Glitch Techs, and, maybe how it got its start and things like that. So I will leave Glitch Techs with a C+. Alright, so the final one, I think we will do this here in under an hour, I'm very happy about that, is another kids show. This one is in the Disney Channel vein of, like, laugh track, girl who says things that are above her age, range. So it's in that whole vein. It's not a Disney production, just like Glitch Techs was a Nickelodeon production. It's not like that. But it's called The Expanding Universe of Ashley Garcia. This is produced by Mario Lopez, and again, from the name, you might be able to tell this is about a Latina girl. And Ashley Garcia is 15 years old, and she is brilliant. She's a robotics engineer and rocket scientist, and so she wants to move in with her uncle so she can go to this school and hopefully work for NASA. There's a lot of interplay between her and the uncle, and they're, again, new people to me anyway. Paula Chavez is Ashley, and then her uncle is Carlos Canella. He's the football coach at the local high school, and she meets, some of his team members, and she kind of, falls for one of them, and her friend from childhood is there in town, and Bella Podaris plays her, and she, wants to teach Ashley, style stuff, and, Ashley wants to sort of maybe teach her how to, learn a little better. She's not necessarily tutoring her, because she's tutoring one of the football guys, but yeah, so, there's a little back and forth about, like, oh, well, I'm really smart, but I don't know my way around a man, or I don't know the world, or whatever. And then the mom also has been very hesitant to even let Ashley go, so she's sort of a constant presence, like over FaceTime and stuff. And, she doesn't really trust that her brother's going to take the best care of Ashley. So, it's a pretty basic setup. It's got that, like I said, Disney Channel vibe of, like, the laugh track, and everybody says sort of silly things. And Mario Lopez not only exec produces it, but he does co-star in it. I think he's more a recurring character. I don't think he's in all the episodes, but he is, the uncle's best friend. He's the co-owner of this local pizza joint, and he does have a very funny line when he's like, oh, Ash, I haven't seen you in so long. You've grown up so much, and she's like, yeah, you look pretty much the same to me, and he just was like, yeah, it's kind of my thing, which running joke that Mario Lopez literally has looked the same for 30 years, gorgeous, and he still looks like he's freaking 25, and he's probably about 50. But anyway, I actually got some laughs out of the show. I do find a lot of humor in these kids shows, because I think some of the over-the-top acting is annoying, but sometimes, with the right dialogue, it can be pretty funny. I always liked that about Hannah Montana. I thought that was a very funny show back in the day. This certainly is not that. It's not That's So Raven. There's a lot of, peak Disney and Nickelodeon shows that this is not, but she's a very likable character. The one thread I think going through all of these 6 Netflix shows is I do like the lead characters. So that's a plus. At least they're finding projects where even if everything doesn't gel about it, you can sort of get behind the main character, and you're rooting for them and whatever they're doing, and you like them. And this girl is likable, this Ashley Garcia. So I liked this show. It's not obviously for me. I'm not the target for it, but I think kids will find some things to like about it. I think the whole trying to get with a boy thing is a little bit over the top for a show for this young an age group. I don't know, but yeah, I kind of like the expanding world of Ashley Garcia, and her interplay with the uncle is fun. So I leave this one with a B. I think it's good. So no real negative grades this week. 6 new Netflix shows, and they were all at least pretty good, I would say, if not better than that. Queen Sono, definitely check that out. That is a good one, for sure. But running out of time here, so thank you so much for watching. I know it was a lot of news this week, but I'll be back in just a few days with another TV news and reviews. Masked Singer is back this week. The Connors is still off this week, so I won't have a Connors review for you. But also I'm going to get my movie reviews up from 2019 with my friend Justin. I will do part 1 of that 4-part series, hopefully in a few days as well. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.